What's up, y'all? Thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. This is a community and YouTube only demonstration. So I just want to show you guys some of the agentic possibilities of what ChatGPT can now do for you. Manus came out with this a little while ago, but it's when you hear the word agentic, it means that it can actually do stuff for you. It can actually control your mouse and kind of do like browser movements and stuff like that. This is like the beginning of what I think is going to be some really wild stuff. But let's say that you're a bar restaurant, you're doing some research, you're trying to find out what's going on in the neighborhood. So I was just like, let's create a Google Maps list of award-winning bars and restaurants in the Lower East Side. That's where I live. And like as in major awards like James Beard, Tales of the Cocktail, World's 50 Best, etc. So this is when it's asking for access to my Google Maps. And so I gave it the two-factor authentication. And it said, are you trying to log in with this browser? And it said, yes. And then I gave it the number. And what it does is it just works. It works for 12 minutes, finding all the bars in my neighborhood that have won major awards. And so let's say that you're trying to open up a bar on Orchard Street. You're like, I want to know what's going on in the Lower East Side. And then you're like, Bar Goto is on 245 Eldridge Street. Double chicken, please. Attaboy, Wild Air. I've never heard of that one. But that was from back in 2016. Dhamaka, Korima, Kisa, all these bars that are like kind of neighborhood bar, like that have been here forever. And it made a list, or it's making a list for me right now, like literally moving my mouse around. And so I'm going to take over. So sometimes it gets stuck and it's and it says I need more information or I need you to log in. And so let's see here. Yeah, so it recommended a name for the list that's creating. And so I'm going to say keep going, make that's a good name for the list. And then I'm going to say finish controlling. And it's going to keep on going through, and it's going to go through and continue making the list. Like it's actually going to make little bullet points on the map. So this is really crazy fun stuff. It's actually starting to do stuff for you, create like digital outputs for you whereas before you're like, I need a blog post idea, or I need an SEO enabled whatever, or I need help with strategy, or act like Dave Chappelle and write a routine for me, or like, whatever it is. But now it's actually kind of moving my mouse, doing all the stuff that I would do. And so let's just watch it kind of do its thing real quick. It says LES award-winning bars and restaurants. And then if you go into Google Maps, or when I go into Google Maps for my stuff, then it'll have a list that it can actually make pins on a map. So like, let's say you're traveling or whatever, and you're like, I need to find the best bicycle destinations in Croatia. And it'll just make a list for you. And then actually you open up your maps on your phone and then that's that list. So pretty crazy stuff. This is kind of the genesis of, what we're doing with some MCP server stuff, which means that we're getting AI. We're using MCP servers to be an interface between natural language processing, as in saying, this is what I want to happen with this piece of software. And then it connects with the software and then starts controlling the software and telling it what to do. So that makes really complex things a lot simpler. And, this is just digital products right now, but it's, wait till it gets into like robotics and stuff. So this is really crazy stuff right now. So it's just going through and making the list based on what I talked. And then I had a question. So I'm like, may I have a map of all the bars in NYC that won major awards that are now closed in the last 5 years? Yeah, it's kind of a shitty, grim topic, but I'm curious. I'm curious like what the causal relationship is between the survivability of bars and restaurants versus the accolades that they win. Now, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and like it seemed like I was coming off negatively, but there's no doubt in my mind that being exceptional at your job will absolutely increase the longevity. And of course, like it's obvious. It's like, I live right next to Double Chicken, Please. And they have a line down the block every single day. And it's been years. But that's not the case for everybody. And so I'm trying to find evidence and data on like, what did they do right? What are they doing right? And how do we create a digital experience around that? So that's kind of my latest obsession. If you're still here, if you need help with this kind of stuff, I'm always available to help. Let me know. Just reach out in the comments or the DMs. And I won't send you an invoice, just for a little bit of advice. All right. Thanks. Talk soon. Bye. What's happening, y'all? It's Jason from the Hospitality Strategy Lab, and I wanted to share a couple of updates with you that are, if you're into boring stuff, this is going to be super exciting. But what I ponder over constantly is, how do we increase engagement with guests outside of our doors? How do we get more people to come into the doors and enjoy some of our life's work, enjoy more of it? So, the question I got, and I was flying the other day, and I was just like, what if our Wi-Fi built our customer list while guests were enjoying our cocktails? And so how can we provide a virtual amenity, a digital amenity inside of the restaurant for free, something that we probably already give away while already building our list? Now, they do this in airports all the time. And you say you want to connect to the free Wi-Fi. We just need a quick survey, a quick understanding of who you are, and we'd love to give you this free service. Now, this works a lot especially for international guests. It works for people that, I don't know, some people just like to connect to the Wi-Fi because they handle big files or whatever. Maybe they're working. So this works great for bars, restaurants, liquor stores, coffee shops, where people kind of sit around for a long time. But we wanted to... so that's like one big bucket, right? So we have one big feature is that we are now collecting information on Wi-Fi, and so we just connect your Wi-Fi system to your router, do a little sorcery internet stuff in the background, and then voila, there's going to be a quick little survey saying what's your first name, what's your email address. Click the button and then you're into our free Wi-Fi, or click this opt-in and then you get our free Wi-Fi. Now what that does is it builds your database so that you can email those people and text them back and say, hey, listen, would you like more of this stuff that we know that you like, or would you tell us how we're doing? Give us a quick survey, like as in on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to come visit us again? And then would you like to leave us a review on Google? Right. And that's a very powerful thing. So that's the biggest, that's a big update, is that we are now collecting Wi-Fi information to help build your database, because people are already there. They're already spending money. They already like you. And let's give them something, give them a little something for nothing, and help them enjoy the experience more, and then also come back. So that's the first big one. The second big one is we have built a waitlist management system. So if you've ever, now this is a bit of a strategy and also a tactic at the same time, because if you've gone to any fancy bar and you've waited in line and you've been like, why do I have to wait in line? Why do I have to sit here and just stand and wait to go into this bar that, maybe they've traveled for a long way to get to see you. Maybe not. Maybe they're just down the street, but in any case, they're standing there waiting in line. And why not be able to just text them? So there's a couple of different systems that work with this. This one that we built is like, it's fully integrated with our system, with KMS Connect, which is built on high level, which is, if you're into that kind of stuff, it's very, very customizable. So I built something that makes it so easy for you that all you have to do is just collect a name and a phone number, and we confirm that they're waiting in line. When their table's ready, you just say this person is good to go. They get a text and then they get 5 minutes to show up and respond, or we send out the text to the next person. Couldn't be simpler, really super easy. But what it does is you are also opting people into your database and asking them if they would like to receive messaging from you and special offers. So you can say, hey, listen, we're not busy right now. You should come in and check out our bar stools that are wide open right now. This is just very, very powerful stuff. It's just like the basic principle is that, like, if you want people to buy stuff from you, you have to tell them that it exists. And in bars and restaurants, we have real estate that is constantly opening and closing, and so if people are aware that they can get what they want without the friction, without having to wait, then it makes it much, much simpler for them. So these are two big updates that help us just capture an enormous amount of data. Now you're wondering, like, oh my God, I'm not trying to get people to opt in. It's completely optional whether people want to opt into your marketing or not, and I strongly advise my clients not to text people any more than is possible, than is necessary. And also there's a lot of rules around that I suggest to people and how to use it. So we use text messaging very, very sparingly, but emails are like, people only open like 20% of emails. And if they don't like it, they're going to hit unsubscribe. So, all this stuff is easy. Unsubscribe. It's easy to get out. Like one click, get out, one word, get out. And so like, this is just giving people more of what they want. I just don't understand like why you wouldn't risk upsetting the small minority of people to help more people, to help the broader majority of people, give them more of what they want. So this is just really fun stuff. This technology, the technology isn't new. It's new to me, and it's a new amenity for what we're offering. But this isn't just tech for tech's sake. It's about serving your guests better without adding more to your plate. So every feature earns its keep here, and the ultimate goal is to get more people into the restaurant. And if we're not measuring how we're doing that, then we're wasting our time. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, let me know. I'll see you in the community at the Hospitality Strategy Lab. You can always reach out to me, DM me, comment, or whatever, and I'm happy to help you out with whatever you're struggling with, because we are on a mission over here, and we're gonna help some bars. All right, thanks. See you soon. Bye. What's up, y'all? Thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Luttrell, and today I want to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It is project management. In case we haven't met, I am a systems and process nerd, because I firmly believe in my bones that everything that we do is a process or a result of a decision tree or a system, and that if you follow a process or system that is constantly being refined, that you will have predictable results and things will predictably happen. And if you design a system that has a positive endpoint or has a positive goal, then you can predictably have positive things happen. So I'm into project management. In fact, I got so into project management recently that I decided to build a second brain for myself inside of a project management software called Nifty. Now, you could use Nifty, you could use Airtable, you could use ClickUp, you could use Trello, whatever it is. Some people even do this on Google Sheets. It's just not as dynamic as I need it for Google Sheets. It's just kind of two-dimensional. So what I use is this program called Nifty. I got it on AppSumo like 5 years ago. It's one of those ones it's one of those pieces of software that is like constantly improved. But the payload of this video is that you're going to see how I dump my brain out constantly and organize my thoughts into just doing the things that are actually important, the things that just move the needle, whether you're opening up a bar, whether you are starting a business, if you're installing a draft system, which I'm going to show you exactly how I'm installing a draft system right now, and then putting that into the context of everything else that you have going on in your life, including your short-term and your long-term goals. Now, I have a ton of big, lofty, ambitious goals. I'm 44 years old now, and by 2038, I'll be 56 years old. My son will be 18 years old, and I'll have a little bit more time on my hands. So I want to be healthy to enjoy that. And also, I'm not like he's 6 years old now, so I'm not trying to wait 12 years to be happy. So I have to prioritize the things that I do with work. And the things that I do with my personal life to get me to where I want to be professionally, and also where I want to be personally, spiritually, with my relationships and all that stuff. And so if you have all that stuff kind of buzzing around your head, it feels like a beehive all the time. So whenever I have an idea, a thought, a concept, whatever, I plug it into the right place. And what that does is it helps me kind of understand where that idea comes into the larger context of the projects that I'm working on and the goals that I have. And it allows me to say, hey, wait a second, that's not important. I shouldn't sink an hour or even a whole day into doing that, because it's just not important. It doesn't line up with all the other stuff. So I tend to go where the novelty is. I like the dopamine hit of working on a new idea. If you've been following me for any length of time, then you know that I'm always going for the new thing. I'm always going for the shiny object, and it's hurt me professionally. But I've opened up bars before. I've worked on big projects, big events. And I wish that I was more committed to this kind of stuff before, because it would have allowed me to have the balance that I'm looking for. A couple primary rules for me that kind of were the genesis of having this level of organization is that I don't drink at all anymore. I don't drink alcohol anymore because it's a distraction and it's too much. And so I realized that I could either have the things that I wanted, or I could have this kind of dopamine hit / cycle of I'm not as productive as I could be. I didn't do this because I did that. And so I'm just ruthlessly eliminating distractions, and that's giving me plenty of headspace to get to where I want to go. So if you're watching this on YouTube, cool. Then I'm going to show you kind of what the system looks like. This is a software called Nifty. It's a desktop app, but you can get it on a web app. There's also if this didn't have an iPhone or an Android app, I wouldn't use it. I'm an Android guy. I'm the blue bubble. You're welcome. But so like I really like, so I, first of all, my business is reliant 100% on my clients. And so I had to make sure that my clients were represented. And anytime I have a conversation with my clients about anything, it's always going to be documented. And I've actually even started tracking my time so I can see exactly where my time goes. A lot of times, I don't know if, when I was opening bars, when I was super busy, I would always be like, I just worked 12, 15 hours today, and I cannot tell you what I accomplished. So there is a gratification. There's like kind of a dopamine hit for actually seeing what you've accomplished in a bar or in on a job. And then also, as a consultant, like you want to be able to demonstrate that and also justify your time. And so all my clients are represented here. This isn't all of them, but all of them are, all of the things I'm working on. These are the businesses that I own right here. These are the partnerships that I've made with people. So I have an ownership stake in these businesses. This is my personal life right here. So this is like the relationships that I want to cultivate. These are ideas that I have. These are some memories that I have. I've organized it. So anytime like a meaningful thought comes into my head, rather than like whether it's positive or negative, like it cannot live rent free in here. When I need to focus on the things that I want to do. And so like this has my kind of macro plan. So let's just go into a client just so you can kind of, so I can give you a couple of examples here. This is Fable Cocktail Bar. This is one of my clients. They're like a brilliant South African cocktail bar. But this is like everything. So like when I first signed up a client, I have like this template that has exhaustive lists of all the onboarding. Now, if you are a bar consultant or if you're like an ambitious bar owner, then this should be all the different individual steps that you have to opening up a bar. Now, this is my company. I serve my client. My job is to take things off of their plate. So you'll notice that I'm assigned to most of these tasks. But if you're a manager or a GM or an owner of a bar or restaurant, then you want to be able to dish these tasks off and create this accountability for the people that are working for you to make sure that you're not only working on the right things, which I think is arguably more important than productivity, but also that you're able to identify roadblocks in case those things are not being finished. And so you want to understand what's going on, and then in case adjustments need to be made with personnel or with responsibilities or whatever, then you have like a documented thing saying that this is what we needed to happen, this is what happened, this is what didn't happen, and this is why. And so like I would say, like especially if you're on a timeline, which every bar is, then you're like, this is the timeline that this needs to happen. And if you really wanted to get wild, what we've done before is we've done a Gantt view, which is where you can see how things are progressing over time. And this is where we have task dependencies and stuff like that. So these are all the onboarding stuff that I have for my clients. We just keep track of who's doing what we're missing, what we need. And then the system constantly nudges us to do the right thing in order, for what we need to, for when and how it needs to happen. So this is like, if you're still here, then this is something that you're probably struggling to implement, but it's so very important. And the pushback that I get with this is like, this is like 90% for me. Like this is 90% so that I am delivering an exceptional product for my clients. So nothing's falling through the cracks. Notice that down here, this is my time tracker for how much time I'm spending making these kind of videos and making content. But if you are like a lot of times that people struggle with adoption with this stuff, but like if I don't own bars anymore, but if I did, I would be like, this is the requirement. And when I did own a bar, we had a Trello board. And so like I was like, hey, if you want to keep track of the things that you're committed to, the things that are in your scope of work, the work that you're supposed to be doing, then you need to adopt the system. But here's the caveat, is that I am adopting this system and I am keeping track of what you said you're going to do, what you're responsible for, and how that is in priority. So like, notice these things, like we can move them in order of priority. We can change them. I can assign them to different people. Like these are different clients. Like my clients have complete visibility on this, and we have a chat feature that this client is using, WhatsApp, but there's an embedded chat feature in this particular software. And I can say, this is like, I can track the history of this task, and assign it to different people. So, and what I do is I end up making comments on that task. And then you can also chat on that task, so that you can see exactly what's happened with that individual task. You can set due dates, you can set dependencies, like as in this can't happen until that happens. You put them on lists so you can kind of categorize them into like different elements. And it's like, it's just, story points are like, we don't use this too much, but story points are like basically how much time you think you're going to estimate that it will take somebody to accomplish a task. So like, let's say that one story point is an hour, and you say that, all right, well, I would like you to clean the draft lines, and that's a 6-hour job. That would establish story points. And so what you can do is you can track with the reporting feature on most of these softwares, how long somebody, like what the estimated workload is going to be for that particular person. And then adjust their workload accordingly, so that they're not being overburdened, so that they can actually focus on finishing tasks rather than finishing important tasks, rather than just being constantly running around. And so like, I'll just give you an example of what we do with, this is a restaurant that is being built for scale. I would not be surprised to see 30 of these in the next 2 or 3 years. So this is a stretch pizza restaurant. It's like, the founder is a celebrity chef. And so this is the work that, and the way that we organize this, the way that I'm organizing my work with this is like, what is the urgent and important thing that needs to be happening? This is called the Eisenhower Matrix. This is how President Dwight Eisenhower made choices, and made decisions. He's like, is this important, or is this urgent and important? Then that means that it's something that he does, that he would do. Is it important but not urgent? Then it's something that you schedule in the calendar. And so I have this integrated with my calendar of like, all these things. Like if I put dates on these, if I put a date on these assignments, it would actually appear in my calendar, and I could drag them around and say like, this is going to be a 15-minute job, and then this is when I'm going to do it. And so like, when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I would like, the only question is this urgent? If not, then send me an email or send me a text message, and then I'll put it into my thing. But it's not like, right now I'm scheduled to complete this task, and I cannot overstate the value of having that kind of ruthless prioritization, because ultimately at the end of the day, we end up doing so much stuff that just doesn't matter, that just does not matter. And so, this kind of goes into a bigger philosophy of scheduling regular times to do things that are maybe boring, but are very important. The things that you just need to do, that you have to do. So you schedule them and you put them in your calendar, and you do not allow anybody to interrupt that. You do not allow anybody to get in the way of that. And if you absolutely have to, if somebody's giving birth on your bar floor, then you move that calendar date, that scheduled time, but you do not delete it, because we oftentimes sacrifice the urgent or the important for the urgent. And so just because it's urgent does not mean it's necessarily going to make your business a 20-year business. And so what we end up doing is we end up doing thousands of tasks that just don't matter. And so that's kind of what I try to avoid. And it's like, just since implementing this, especially in my personal life, I've just been able, like, this is like also known as kind of like a second brain or a brain dump. I have a place to get rid of all the stuff in my mind. I have a place to get rid of all this stuff so that I just don't have to think about it. And then when I decide if it's a good idea, I can measure it against the other things in that category, as in, is this a good idea or not? And then if it is a good idea, if I'm still white hot about it, then I'll schedule time to build it, but not at the expense of the things that are urgent and important. And then the second priority is the things that are important that are in my calendar. And then if I'm still excited about it, then it goes into my thing. But I'm not going to let somebody just like drag me over here. Like for me, content is important. And I love talking about my stuff, but before I did not have the mental bandwidth to be able to do this, to sit down here and do it, because I was constantly so once I started tracking my time, started tracking my tasks, and just being very disciplined about the stuff that I put into my orbit, into my like work orbit, because you and I know, like, the task list will never be over. It will never be over. But if you allow people to pull you away from the things that are actually important, that are actually going to move the needle in your business, then you are doomed. You are doomed. I feel very passionately about this, but okay, that's all I got for you today. If you need help with this stuff, like I'm absolutely 100% committed to helping you with this, because we have a miserable failure rate, and it doesn't have to be like that. There's like the bars that are winning right now are very predictable. The bars that have been around for 20 years are very predictable. They adapt, and they focus on product, service, and they get people to come back more than one time. That's it. That's the entire ball game, is turning one guest into 1.1 guests. That's it. All right. This has been the Hospitality Strategy Lab. I'm Jason Luttrell, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Luttrell, and today I want to talk about consistency and the philosophy that how you do anything is how you do everything. Now, I put a lot of faith and stock into that philosophy because, I learned early on that you face your bottles when you're pouring them. And if you look under my sink right now, you'll see that everything is very tidy and organized and all the bottles are faced. It's not always like that. I'm human, things happen and whatever. Sometimes I'm excited about that level of organization, and sometimes I'm not. But when I'm at work, it's pretty much always very consistently, very, very organized. So here's a story about how I was hired to implement a draft system, and what went wrong, what went right, and what I eventually learned from it. So this is actually recent, is working with a celebrity chef. The idea was that it's super fast casual pizza concept, and it was meant to be very systematized, or at least in my mind, it was meant to be very systematized so that we could have people that weren't necessarily beverage experts delivering a very high quality product in beverage. And to do that, the theory was that we would do it on draft. Now, if you've ever worked with draft systems or draft cocktails, then you know that that actually adds a lot of complexity, because you have to, especially if you're trying to carbonate drinks. So carbonating cocktails on draft at scale is actually pretty difficult to do. And that is exacerbated by the fact that you have maybe complex cocktails that require a bit of precision when you're pouring them into large batches. So things were moving really fast. It was a quick opening. There's a little bit of turnover in the staff, and nobody was really responsible for the beverage. So they hired me to come in and just kind of organize things and sort things out for this to happen. Now, I document everything. So as I move through. And so what I received, the input that I got on this one was, these are the recipes that we would like to be on draft. And I saw an individual recipe in ounces, and then I saw a scaled recipe in liters, and liters in which is, you could intuit is you can also turn into milliliters, and there's a certain level of precision required to make this happen at scale, and especially when you're working with lower skilled workers. Like, these were not bartenders, they're not people that were interested in being beverage professionals even. They just wanted to go do their jobs and go home. And so to get the ball rolling, just to get something that we could put up on the pin board and sell, I did it. I made the recipe as close as I could using measuring, but there was not a precise measurement. I was like literally measuring into Cambros, so it was by the liter, and by fraction of the liter. And now I've been doing this for 20 years, so I can taste a batch and fix it incrementally by quote unquote eyeballing it. And that is not a level of precision that is required to do something like this at scale. And so what you have to do is, I wanted to start selling that drink today, because we had all the ingredients and we were ready to go from that standpoint. But from an operational standpoint, it was nowhere near ready. And so what I learned from this, so the problem was that I was in the kitchen fixing this batch, getting it ready to go, and I was seen pouring flavored sugar into a 5-gallon corny keg, and there was an objection, understandably, from the chef saying that, hey, you're eyeballing that. And I was like, yeah, I am. I didn't want to defend myself. It's like, it's not really in this. It doesn't really getting into an argument into a kitchen. This was off hours, by the way. This wasn't during service, but getting into an argument with anybody, let alone your boss's boss, is counterintuitive and counterproductive. So I was just like, yep, that's right. And we all kind of just moved on. So I feel like my reputation got a bit of a ding that day because it appeared that I was just kind of like willy-nilly doing stuff. But in my mind, it's kind of the equivalent of just adding a pinch of salt if you're cooking a dish, because I was literally making 600 servings of this drink, and adding 4 or 5 ounces of 50 bricks syrup is not gonna dramatically impact the way it behaves or tastes. So anyway, so I put it in there, sealed it up, wrapped it up, and that ended up being what the batch needed, and they were able to sell it, to sell the drink later that day. Now, if from a tactical standpoint, from an actually like implementing this in your bar standpoint, what you do need to do is for large batches like that, and for people that don't necessarily give a shit, you have to measure everything by weight. You have to do everything by weight, and that comes with its own challenges. So I use a little scale like this. It's like an OXO or something like that, but it has a limitation on how much weight you can put on it. And so not only do you have to get the right equipment so you can weigh something up to that has the capacity to weigh that much stuff, but you also have to standardize the brands, and also temperature is a factor. So it's like you have to put everything into you have to standardize every little thing, including like how things are stored, which brands you use, and then you have to put all that into a document that is understandable by somebody who doesn't care, and then you still have to be able to fix it in case something's wrong, and then you have to treat the keg every day, temperature so especially when you're carbonating a keg, the CO2. First of all, you have to purge the oxygen out of there, otherwise the oxygen will oxidize the cocktail, and the juice in there will start to taste like it's old. So you have to get the air out of there, and then you have to put in CO2. There's a way that you put in the CO2 so you're not mixing the CO2 with air. So you have to have only CO2 in there and zero oxygen, otherwise it's going to oxidize. And so when you put the CO2 in there, the CO2 is not going to mix into the solution until you shake it up. So somebody's got to come around and shake it every day, preferably more. And then that way the solution, the gas gets mixed in with the solution. And then once it goes through the draft line, assuming that there's no nucleation points in the draft line, there's no scuffs in the tubing or anything like that, then that's when pump comes out, and then the gas escapes, and that's what we see as carbonation. So all this stuff has to work perfectly every single time from people who don't care. And so the point of the story is that the level of precision and the level of explanation, being able to document that is not only a skill, but it's also an art, in my opinion. And that's where kind of my creativity comes in, is because like my thinking about this is that like we may be able to train this in a linear way in the beginning of a relationship with a new associate, somebody who's working with us. But there also has to be a reminder in context. And so what I ended up doing was I said, here's a QR code that leads to a web page that is in the keg room. Like it's in the keg room. So not only like do I want to laminate this SOP, and then also assign it to a dedicated batch kit that's just for this work. Like the chefs cannot use this to make pizza. It's only to make these 5-gallon batches of whatever. They were also doing Lambrusco. They also had another like a draft Negroni. But this one was like, so we have to have dedicated equipment. There has to be an SOP attached to the point of a decision where somebody's like, okay, this is out. What do I need to do now? And then also I put a QR code on this with a video walkthrough of me making the batch, so that somebody could have an understanding of kind of how the mechanics of that works. Now, if this level of granularity and precision is required, I mean, this is setting aside having a backup carbonating while you're dispensing the first one. Setting all that aside, this level of precision, put in the hands of somebody who doesn't necessarily care. And don't tell me about hiring people who care and people who don't care. People care about what they care about, and sometimes they can be excellent hospitality practitioners and just not give a shit about carbonating cocktails. And so what I'm getting at is that, like, if you can get past those elements, then then it's still important to provide the information that's required in context at the time of need. And I do that with web pages and just making little video demonstrations of walking through, because some people learn by reading, some people learn by looking at it, and other people learn by just doing it 1,000 times. But at the end of the day, with something that has that much specificity and that much, I mean, the stakes aren't that high. We're just talking about drinks here, really, honestly. But the drink could be simple, but the way that it's delivered could be extraordinarily complex. And then that level of complexity has to be met with documentation. And there has to be a level of tolerance for if that doesn't get executed exactly right. Because we're talking about science here. That's science. And then you also have to be able to fix it in case it gets fucked up. All right. That's the lesson that I learned. And I hope you enjoyed the story. My name is Jason Luttrell. This has been the Hospitality Strategy Lab, and I will see you next time. Thank you. What's up, and thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Luttrell, and if you are a high-performance executive or if you're a high-performance business owner, this one is for you. So I've done quite a bit of surveys and talking to and listening to people who are in extremely high-performance positions, like lawyers, doctors, high-level service professionals, financial advisors, stuff like that. And the sum of all of these conversations is that time is money. And so if you run a very high touch business, like as in if you're a restaurant owner, or if you are a lawyer at a law firm, or if you just basically are in client services, then your time is extremely valuable. So let's say that you're a lawyer charging, $500 an hour, $300 an hour, whatever it is. The cost of opening up an email is considerable. Not only that, but also task switching is extremely difficult for people to do, because what it does is it takes your mind off of the tasks that you have at hand, and then you have a hard time getting back into the zone on the other thing. So if you're dealing with multiple complex cases at the same time, let's say you're a lawyer, you've got 10 divorces that you're working on, then you have to context switch all the time. But as a small business owner, you also have to grow your business, and you also have to pick up the phone and call people and follow up with people and stuff like that. And I remember my last experience looking for an attorney. I didn't know anybody in the space, and I just did what pretty much the rest of us do, which is go on Google and say, I'm looking for XYZ type of attorney. And I looked at the reviews, and I was like, okay, cool. Which ones have reviews? Which ones have positive reviews? Because it's like buying anything else, right? You look for the people that have demonstrated success, because otherwise it's just you. And so if you're spending $10,000 on an attorney, you want to know that you're going to be in good hands and that you're going to be taken care of. Now, this leaves a little bit of a problem though, because like, let's say you're an attorney and you're in court all the time, or you're processing documents, or you're doing doc review or whatever it is, then it's a very difficult thing to switch out of the zone where you are talking to a customer versus when you're talking to a client. And so, everybody, I'm sure you've been inundated with all these conversations about AI and automation and stuff like that. Partially from me, I'm a little guilty of that. But there's a whole ocean of opportunity out there for you. And this is why we built Ashley. Ashley is the latest thing that we've built. It's just a kind of a different package on the same things that we've been doing, but it addresses the basic things that I'm pretty sure that every high performer hates. They hate going into CRMs. Oh my God. Number one, people hate CRMs. So your relationship, but the relationships are what drive most of your sales, right? So like knowing people, networking, getting referrals, that's how you get business, especially at the higher end of the spectrum, like white collar criminal attorneys, for instance. And so how do you serve them in a way that makes them more of them, right? And so what we're doing with AI and automation is we are duplicating people and automating the things that can and should be automated. So let's say that you spend 8 hours sleeping. Let's say that you spend 8 hours that you want to spend with your family, and then the rest of the day is working or weekends or in court, or you're indispensable. Like you cannot get away from it. And so how do you duplicate yourself in a way that you don't have to adopt any new technology? You just have to kind of change the plumbing a little bit. And it all starts with the phone number, right? So your friends, your family, your immediate circle, your clients, they should have your cell phone number. They should have your personal cell phone number. Everybody else should have a public facing number that does not impact you at all. And so what we can do is with call routing and with IVR systems called interactive voice response, like which means like press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for that, is that we can protect your time while communicating immediately with the same urgency that you would if you were able to do it yourself. And we do it in your own voice. And so we do this with a couple different systems that we built. One of them is missed call text back. If you want to, if you have a high volume of calls, then we can actually set up an AI voice agent that will respond with all the questions that you can answer, that you would answer if it was just you in person, or anything that is knowable, like on your website or from your SOPs or whatever it is. So we load up all those documents of all the answers to any question that anybody could possibly have, and then either set it up so that we text back and have a text conversation with the client, the potential client, answer all their questions, and then if they are qualified, then we invite them into booking some time when you are available, right? So that you've already immediately responded to this conversation, and you have and then you've invited them into the next step, which is to book an appointment so that you can get an understanding of their case. Now, how do you add another layer to that? And that's what this weekend was for me, was learning how to do big data enrichment, right? So let me just let that sink in for a second. So big data is what Google, Facebook, Instagram, Verizon, Sprint, the credit card agencies, they have been collecting information on us for ages, and they know almost everything that there is to know about us. In fact, they can even predict a lot of our behaviors, which is why Facebook is in business, because they put ads in front of people that they think would be most likely to buy your stuff. That's a predictive data model. And so what we're doing right now is we're using information from calls to invite people in and qualify them based on job titles, industries, assets, financial modeling, and all this other crazy stuff. And it's very exciting. It's going to be a little creepy for some, but this is what the big companies are already doing. And I think it's very exciting because what we're able to do is we're able to get on a live phone call, we're able to send an API request to our data provider, and then we get a text message back saying, this is the person, this is their profile. And these are their social media links, so that while you're on the phone with them, you can be like, okay, cool. All right, this all checks, and this might be a good potential client for us. So this means that you're not digging through pointless calls of tire kickers of people that are just not worth your time, because again, every 20-minute phone call is actually costing you $200 or $300 based on your hourly rate. And so by handing this stuff off to robots, you're actually protecting your time in a way that has never been possible. And it is, to me, extremely exciting, because I don't like to talk to people that are not my family, that are not my friends, that are not my clients, and have no interest in working with me. So this is connecting big data with automation and telephony and phone stuff has been very, very exciting for me. And this works for any kind of high end. So like, before you get bugged out, like just remember that at 11 Madison Park, they have a team of 3 or 4 people that are called Dreamweavers that just research their guests. So you have publicly available information, and it's out there. And if you don't want it there, then you can reach out to the data brokers. Definitely scrub your LinkedIn profile, because a lot of data is scraped from LinkedIn, including email addresses. That's why people get so many cold emails, is because they scrape it off of LinkedIn. And but you can use this. It may sound yucky or creepy to you, but you can use this to your advantage, and it's possible. And so this is why we built Ashley. Ashley is a personal assistant. You can call Ashley whatever you want. You can call Ashley your own name, and Ashley handles this kind of stuff. And a lot of people are worried that Ashley is going to put their receptionist out of business, or that somebody's going to get fired. But in reality, Ashley is going to put a jetpack on your back, and Ashley's going to help you build your business while you sleep. This is like, it doesn't even stop there. It doesn't even stop there. Like, what we've done is we've made these integrations and automations that nurture your leads forever. Like the people that you've maybe worked with in the past, like let's say you're a divorce lawyer, and the people that you've worked with in the past, you're not going to get them back, hopefully, because it's divorce and it's sucky, but they probably know somebody who's going to get divorced. And to nurture them every 90 days and say, hey, hope everything's doing great. Glad we could prevail for you in your case, or sorry it didn't work out with your case. If you have a second, we'd love to hear your feedback and leave us a review. And or if you have a referral, we'd be grateful for any opportunity to serve one of your friends, right? And so most of the time, this work just doesn't get done. And a lot of lawyers and financial product providers, this is just work that an SDR or sales development rep would do, but you just can't get to. And you're so busy serving your clients, and then it's kind of this like feast and famine cycle. And so this is here. It's done, and it's very, very, very exciting because these are big boy problems. These are big girl problems, and we're solving them with AI and automation without having to log into a CRM, without having to look to adopt a new technology, without any training. We're literally just inserting the plumbing, and then testing it once to see if it makes sense, and then altering it or adjusting it if it's required. But the onboarding does not take very much time, and it's set it and forget it. So if this is something that you think you might want for your business, this works for spirits brands, it works for law firms, it works for hospitality brands, high-end concierge brands, luxury brands, financial services, insurance. It works for pretty much anything, and it's 100% in your voice, 100% automated. And again, it's not to fire your receptionist. It's to make your hire the best receptionist that you've ever had. And this is about protecting your time, because your time is extremely valuable. And so that's all I got for you today. If you want some of this stuff for your bar, you want this stuff for your business, I'm here for you. Just reach out, or actually, if you want to, you can call Ashley and see what I'm talking about. So Ashley, I eat my own dog food. And so if you want to reach out to Ashley, who's my assistant, at 646-722-6735, then Ashley will take care of you. And you'll see that you'll get an automated voice AI agent. And then if you say, I have a problem, I need some support, then it'll go to me. It'll ring my phone and I'll pick up probably. And if you have a sales question, then it'll say, great, I'll put you right through to Derek, and we'll get you what you need. All right. That's all I got for you today. Hope you're doing great. Talk to you soon.